with Jimmy B. Jack's here with us as well. Sandra back in the iHeartRadio studios. It is always a good time when we get a chance to talk football with former Arizona Cardinal, Titan Lions defensive end Kyle Vanden Bosch. You can follow him at Vanden Bosch 93 on Twitter.
Or K Vanden Bosch 93.
Okay, yes, K Vanden Bosch 93 on Twitter. But now it's just X. I hope I have that. I'm still confused over that. Kyle, it's Jimmy B and Manoj. How are you, pal?
I'm good, guys. Doing great.
It's great to have you on the show, as always. So camp opens up today, and they don't do too much the first 2 days. They're on the field beginning Thursday. So what can we expect out of the opening day on the field for this team? Is it just going to be calisthenics? They'll run a couple of things, or are they going to start to implement their offense and defensive schemes right away?
Yeah, you get right into the install. You do some review from the things you covered in OTAs and mini camps, but quite frankly, at least my experience, you don't spend a lot of time with conditioning. These guys are professionals. They are expected to show up, to be in shape, and to be ready to go. Now, I don't know how Jonathan Gannon runs things. It seems like every place I've been, there is some sort of conditioning test to see where players are at, so that if players aren't in good enough shape, they're at an injury risk. So I'm sure they have some sort of conditioning test, and players that don't pass that conditioning test will need to do some extra conditioning. But the rest of the team, I mean, you've got to hit the ground running. And to be frank, this team has to do a lot of catch up from the beginning, because with a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new head coach, and just a plethora of new players, they really need to get into the nuts and bolts of what this team is going to look like on the field and how they're going to run their offense and their defense.
Sounds interesting, because I don't know what you guys are doing, but we had too many camps. We'd have one after the draft for the rookies, and then we'd have one for all the vets. That was pretty much it until training camp. I think we got to like July 15th or 18th, somewhere in there, because we had the 6 weeks of training camp. How much more different, when Jimmy asks, do they dive right into it? How much further ahead are they now than they were back when I was coming up, even yourself, as far as really getting to more nuts and bolts versus kind of starting from scratch? And you just put enough of a few things in a mini camp just to kind of get a flavor before you get to camp.
Yeah, I mean, they should be, have a good idea of, their base plays, their base packages, how they're going to build their offense. And that's really look, you don't get into game planning. You don't get into studying opponents or any of that throughout the summer, but you do want your players to understand how things are going to be run and what you're going to do. So, I would think that, for the most part, they have a head start. And I really, especially with this staff, it seemed like right from the beginning, they threw quite a bit of information at the players. And you hear reports of players being called out in meetings and being asked questions and being put on the spot to keep them accountable in meetings. And I think that's all great, because it's not like that everywhere. It wasn't even like that when I played all of the time. And so, I think players are kind of always on edge and making sure that they know and understand the concepts and know and understand what the coaches are asking of them at all times.
Kyle, you bring up a great point. I always felt like in Buffalo, and Chuck Knox being our coach and winning division titles in L.A. and then doing the same thing with us in Buffalo, we always felt, I guess, not that it was an intimidating environment, but it was an environment of you're auditioning or you're playing for your job every day. And so as a young rookie, you kind of learn that quickly, like, okay, even as a backup, I still felt, even during the seasons, that you're auditioning for your job. I like that accountability factor, keeping you on your toes and being alert. So if that's kind of the mantra that's at that camp, that'll probably wake a lot of those guys up as to, hey, your butt's on the line every day.
Yeah, and when you're in front of your team and you're called out or you're asked a question in front of the team, that's keeping you accountable to your teammates. Obviously you want to be accountable to your coach because he's the one that's going to make decisions on playing time and things like that. But as a player and being in a locker room, the biggest fear you have is letting down your teammates and not earning their trust. And so, I think it's great the way that they've handled things thus far and made sure that everybody is not just accountable to the organization and the team, but especially accountable to the teammates because, look, I don't know how the season's going to go. Every season's different, but their story is being written. It is vitally important, again, because of coaches coming from different places, players being added and players leaving, that this team starts to really gel. And you can probably attest to this. It's probably tougher now. You're not spending as much time on the practice field. You're not going away for training camp. You're not grinding like you used to. I mean, you had no choice but to bond with your teammates when we played because everybody was just going through so much adversity and so much was thrown at them. So you've got to find ways to bring this team together and start to form. Instead of a bunch of individuals brought together, it's time to start becoming a team. And when you do things like that and you're accountable to your teammates, you start to build that.
Kyle Vanden Bosch is our guest on the Wright Toyota guest line. Rocket Minutes with Jimmy B, Fox Sports 910. I'm just curious, have the Cardinals called you yet to see if you could come over and work with Zaven Collins now that he's changing positions, a position that you know very well?
No, I haven't gotten any phone calls. I actually, this year, I'm coaching special teams and I know nothing about it. So I'm up to my neck trying to figure out how to coach special teams and hold up my end of the deal. So at this point, I'm not even looking at defensive linemen.
Let me ask you this: what advice would you have for Zaven Collins?
Yeah.
Go from a Mike backer to technically a defensive end and a 4-3 front. Let's say they mix it up, go 3-4 front or a 5-2, what have you. But what advice or what do you want to see? Let's put it this way, Kyle.
That's fair.
What do you want to see from him?
If I could give him some advice, one thing is don't feel your way through it. Go 100 miles per hour and then you'll figure out what you do best. You can't, I think a lot of players want to walk, jog, and then try to get to full speed. But to me, it's easier just to go and figure it out as you're going. And even if you make a mistake, you don't have a good rush. If you're going full speed, good things will happen, right? But particularly with an end, I was always amazed at Chandler Jones watching him. He had, just so many different pass rush moves that he would use throughout the course of a football game. I was always afraid of wasting a rush trying something new. So I think for me, especially for a new rusher, you figure out what your move is, and then you figure out one counter once they figure out how to block your move, or if you go up against a guy that can stop you. You got to have one move, one counter move, and then the rest is just power rush. So I think especially for somebody that's probably never played that position, never had an opportunity to rush as much as he's going to rush. It'd be cool to study, all of the great pass rushers that have ever played this game and try to take a little bit from each of them. But you just got to figure out what you do well and make them block your best stuff.
Hey, last but not least, congratulations on your Nebraska Football Hall of Fame class of 2023. One guy recognized there that I played with in the Olympia Challenge Bowl on the Big 8 All-Star team, Dave Clark. I saw Big Dave was there, and yourself and several others, but huge congratulations and very deserving there, Kyle.
Well, thank you. It's been a weird kind of week and a half when later in life you get recognized for something you did 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I've done anything since, but it is a tremendous honor. I'm extremely proud of what I did in my college career, but more importantly, just having a place amongst the greats that went to the University of Nebraska. And it's a huge honor for me, and I'm extremely humbled by it.
Well, I'll age myself. The quarterback for that team was Tom Sorley. So Tom and I were the quarterbacks for the Big 8 All-Star team taking on the Pac-10 All-Stars. Jack Thompson, the throwing Samoan.
Oh, yeah, Washington State.
Was over on the other side. But Dave Clark was one of our linemen. A few of the other stuntman Dunning was also the linebacker. So those kids from Nebraska, they're pretty good kids, I got to tell you. Hard-working dudes, man.
Yeah. Most of them are. I mean, that's for a while there. You know, people. My boys are too young to remember what Nebraska used to be like.
Yeah.
But I tell them, you know, Nebraska at one point was the Alabama of college football.
Yeah.
So hopefully under Matt Rule, they can get things rolling and get some respectability back in the program.
Always good, pal, when you take time with us. Thank you as always. Again, congratulations on the induction at Nebraska. Have a great day. Try to stay cool.
Yeah, right. Thanks, guys.
That's Kyle Vanden Bosch. And he is always driven by All City Towing. All City Towing, they've got a brand new fleet